you gawping at? It's like you've never seen the hand of God before. Pay attention. Today's plan will involve a little bit of marching up and down the square. Unless some of you might have a place you'd rather be than here, marching up and down the square. Sergeant? What is it, Mackenzie?
I'd like to be at the library.
The library? The library, Mackenzie? I suppose you'd want to go and read a book. Right. Off you go.
Hi, I'm Rob, and this... exquisite bit of literature is Neil Aspinshaw's new book, The Martini Henry for Queen and Empire. Let's get it over to the lightbox. Weighing in at 2.2 pounds, its moderate weight and dimensions conceal somewhat of a magnum opus that punches far beyond what you see on the cover. Now, I first met Neil probably around 2010 through the British military forums, where he was an avid contributor to discussions centering around the Martini Henry. Subsequent to that, I met Neil for the first time face-to-face in 2016 during my visit to the UK. Subsequent to that, I met him again, and we had a great reunion at the British Military Forum's IMA shoot and warehouse visit in Pennsylvania of 2018. Now, Neil is a fantastic man, and his enthusiasm and knowledge about this rifle and the topics that surround it are infectious and most appreciated by the community. Now today, I thought I'd give our viewers perhaps a chance of a small peek inside. Whet your appetite, shall we say, because this is a book that you don't want to do without. One only has to peruse the table of contents to understand just how comprehensive the book is. As you can see here, the chapters follow along a logical and generally chronological sequence, which takes us, the reader, along for a ride through the rifle's history, its technical aspects, its development, its operational use, as well as all the other aspects of its service life, be it logistical or cultural. Included as well are the subjects of manufacture, distribution, and service disposition. Of course, no book would be complete without the discussion of the various bayonets and perhaps most importantly, especially for the Martini Henry, its ammunition. The foreword is written by Christian Cramner, who, as many of those interested in the Martini Henry, and in particular owning and shooting them, will know him as the owner of International Military Antiques. IMA is perhaps the largest provider of Martini Henrys to the public through their custodialship of what is known as the Nepal cache. This is a huge stockpile of obsolete weapons that were saved from obscurity and, as has become apparent in recent times, destruction, as they had been stored in a vast cache in Nepal. The building housing the cache was destroyed by earthquake in 2015. IMA has been intimately involved in the production of this book, and Christian has written a thoughtful passage filled with background and praise for Neil and his effort. Neil goes on to acknowledge those who have helped with the book in all ways. Included here is a small ode to those Victorian riflemen at the British Military Forum, a list in which yours truly is kindly mentioned. The reader is brought quickly to the social and cultural history of the Martini Henry right off the bat, with an immersive exposition of the theatre that perhaps most associate with this rifle, the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879. This sets the stage and quickly brings the reader to the context that all technical details, developmental discussions, and subsequent changes were made, its use in action. Before there was the Martini Henry proper, there was the need for a breech-loading rifle to replace the aging and obsolescent muzzleloading rifles, and this backstory is covered early on. This story leads perfectly into the development and pre-production history of the Martini Henry, including the initial long-chamber ammunition. The Mark I is covered in detail as well as its many variants. As is common in this book, the comprehensiveness in research and detail is evident. Pertinent names, correspondence, and official primary sources are used to paint an incredibly detailed picture of this iconic arm. Once the rifle had been developed and issued, The book takes a thoughtful pause to explain the system of manufacture at various locations and storage, delivery, and issue from depots such as those found at Whedon. This is a great interlude and much overlooked by the popular history of the rifle. The book then returns to the rifle proper with a look at the Mark II, its differences, and the interesting reasons for the changes that were made. This is followed by a discussion of the Mark III. The cavalry and the gunners are not left out of this story, as the various carbines are discussed. Again, excellent pictures of individual rifles, as well as pertinent historical photographs are used. Then we make a most appreciated stop right in the thick of it, the Martini Henry in action. Here, actions in Afghanistan and the Sudan are added to those already described at the beginning of the book, as happened in Zululand. What becomes apparent is the well-researched and aptly presented aspects of some of these battles. Maiwand, Abu Klea, Tafrek, and Tamai, to name a few. Here were the battles of the 1870s and 80s that marked the most widespread use of the Martini. Not included at any point in these stories are popular conceptions, myths, and legends, particularly surrounding the ammunition. Neil's delivery of the facts, good and bad, is most refreshing here. Some additional context is provided in a chapter on both long-range shooting and capabilities, as well as short-range, small-bore training accessories and ammunition. For those that think the Martini was a so-called volley gun, only useful at relatively close range and in great masses, will be pleasantly surprised by the reality of Martini Henry musketry training. Next, the book delves into that little-known and never-to-have-been-issued rifle, the Enfield Martini. Devised as an improvement over the .45 caliber Martini, this new design in .402 was seen as a logical successor to the older rifle. Coming at a time when even smaller calibers were entering into the military realm, it was completely overshadowed by the development and eventual adoption of the .303 military cartridge. But the story doesn't end there, for from the ashes of the .402 Enfield Martini comes the last major mark of the Martini Henry, the Mark IV. This is a fascinating story unto itself, with many interesting details of development, conversion, and manufacture. Following on, the book covers the .303 family of Martinis, the Martini Metford, and the Martini Enfield. Rifles and carbines fill the page as this fascinating pattern of arms is explored. Some of the more technical aspects of the manufacture are covered in Chapter 16. Barrel making, the forging of the action body, or receiver in today's speech, as well as the assembly of the parts are covered here. This leads to two of the most interesting chapters in my opinion, dealing with ammunition, 17 and 18. Technical aspects, manufacturing techniques combined with an exploration of its strengths and weaknesses here. But it is in the latter, Chapter 18, where perhaps the most poignant information is discussed. That of the popular conception of the rifle's propensity to be ineffective due to jamming. Personally, this was one of my favorite chapters, as Neil has drawn on primary source documentation to cut through what exists today as crap internet conjecture and rumor, and place jamming issues, of which there were undoubtedly some, in the correct context. Well done for this pointed examination of the subject. The book winds to a conclusion with a look at the many patterns of bayonet used with the Martini Henry, from the initial bushed 53 pattern to the common socket bayonet of 1876 and the huge Yataghan sword, as well as other types issued to the artillery, combined with the later .303 variants. Finally, a chapter on the maintenance and repair of the rifle is added, including discussion of tools and techniques used by troops and armorers alike. A number of appendices are also included. These cover topics such as manufacturer's markings, unit markings, and a guide to identifying individual types of Martini. Neil's book is a most welcome addition to the often overlooked subject of British Victorian arms. It makes for an excellent combination of technical details, developmental history, and operational use. I can safely say that this book has become the benchmark for what a book of this type should be. Thank you to Neil for having the energy, the passion, and the wherewithal to put this together for us. Congratulations on a most excellent effort. For those of you interested in purchasing this book, it can be had at either Neil's website or at IMA. Links for both of these will be included in the description below. Neil can also be reached at his website, martinihenry.org, or through his Facebook page, the Martini Henry Society. If you'd like to support the channel, please stop by our Patreon page. The link is in the description below. And for more information on projects and updates between videos, follow us on our Facebook page.